All right. Welcome, everybody. Let's call this meeting to order. Today is a workshop for the meeting. Today is the April 5th. Our regular school commission meeting will be on April 10th. I'd like to get a roll call from our Deputy City Clerk, Tanya Harris.
Commissioner Mercer. Here. Commissioner Yates.
Here.
Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong.
Here.
And Mayor Dantzler.
Here. JP, can you hear us better? We got
I
you?
can hear you fantastic.
All right. We can hear you too. So we got new microphones in here. So
Actually,
Oh, good.
it's the same for now, but you
Right.
got a new sound system.
now
got.
system. Yeah. So.
Good deal.
Okay, we'll go over this real quick. Presentations. We got two presentations Monday night, three presentations, proclamation and three proclamations. All right. Tonight, we're going to do just a quick rundown on the Willow Brook Golf Course, our annual update. So, Julie, do you want to take it? Introduce everybody? Okay.
Hey, Julie, real quick, if I could, just before you start, there is one more proclamation for Monday night. I just wanted to remind you, we'll do our Earth Day proclamation Monday evening, and that will take place at the ribbon cut for the electric vehicle charging stations. We're going to do that just before this meeting, I think at 5:30. Did someone confirm that for me? It's either 5 or 5:30, but we'll make sure that's accurate on your calendars. And that is just down here at the Piazza. We're going to do that ribbon cut, and then we'll present that proclamation at that point.
You know, what long as we're talking about that, we've got 4 spots to park, but only 2 green spaces to park in. So I don't know if you want to try to paint it for Monday, but you do have 4 hoses. And you only have 2 parking places. So
We all check with MJ and see what his plan on that is.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
we get pictures. You might want to do that.
5:15 is the time for that. Thank you.
Alright. Sounds good. Good evening. Again, tonight I get to bring forth the good news. I'm lucky enough to be able to do that most of the time that I'm before you and in your company up here. So tonight we have an update. We have our partners at Indigo Golf with us, Dan Zimmer and Joe Coley. But before we get to their annual update, we also wanted to provide a little bit of insight into the projects that we have been working so diligently on to get off the ground with the Duke easement money that was dedicated to improvements out of the Willowbrook Golf Course. So before we get there, back in 2013, the city contracted with Indigo and to work with operations management out of the golf course. And just from everything that I've read and learned up until my joining the team here, there's been nothing but positive feedback on their performance, and that only continues. I can say in my time with the team and in the monthly meetings that we do have with the guys behind me and also Ray, their maintenance superintendent, it continues to impress me at what they're tracking and paying attention to, how they manage their data, how they manage their performance. They're always bringing to us to the table what they've been working on and showing us how they compare in industry standards, what they're doing to improve the golf course on both an operational level and a maintenance level. And I, again, just want to applaud their efforts and just being able to show us what they're doing for the partnership that we have with them. Each year, Indigo works with the city to identify capital improvements needs. And when the Duke easement money came on board, we worked with our partners at Indigo to identify a prioritized needs list of capital investments out at the golf course. There were some major upgrades identified from that prioritization effort that include greens renovations, drainage improvements, irrigation system overhaul with reuse pond expansion and additional capacity, cart path renovations, bridge renovations, new on-course restrooms, upgrades to the clubhouse landscape, and also entry improvements as well. So with all of those, we've been working to identify what that prioritization looks like and moving forward as to how we get that project off the ground. We've been working closely with not only Team Michael, but also John Murphy to figure out how we go about this. This is a very unique approach to a project because there are so many, as we call, buckets of projects or likeness of projects that we have within that entire scope. And so we feel that we have come to an agreement on where we can take that and moving forward. I'm going to bring Andy Palmer up to the podium now so we can discuss a little bit more about what that looks like and the next steps we'll be taking and bringing before you. And then after that, I'll turn it over to Dan and to Joe so they can give you the annual update. Before I turn it over to Andy, do you guys have any questions for me at this point? Okay, great.
Thank you, Julie. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a quick update on our approach at project management. What we found is that we are going to competitively, so we ensure that we competitively procure these items and the project. What we're looking to do is a two-prong approach. Number one is a contract amendment, a proposed contract amendment with Indigo, which will come back to you guys in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And that would be for project to help with project management and act as the owner's rep. And what they would do is they would provide those services through the development of our specifications, our bidding, through the design, and then certainly over the construction of the project. The second approach is at the same time working on a design. We've been very successful with our design build approaches to projects. And we are working on a request for qualifications document where we would put this out to bid, and it will include our prioritization list of the projects that Julie talked about, and also in coordination with Indigo. And what we will look to do is bring a design build firm on, like a very similar like we've done to some of the other projects that we've done. That will actually take place. That should be hopefully go out on the street again in the next 4 to 6 weeks, if not sooner. One of the advantages of the design build really is it helps us on the front end do our cost estimates. So we know we have a budget, and we know we have a priority list, and we have good cost estimates. And along with Indigo's help and the city, in conjunction with staff and the design build firm, what we'll be able to do at the beginning of that is go through that prioritization list, see where those cost estimates lend out, then start the design effort. And the unique aspect about this project compared to some of our other design build projects is some of these items will actually be able to probably start earlier than others. And it's really in the timing. For example, we don't want to do the cart path renovations until we've done the irrigation, which is then you need to do the greens renovations. So some of those may actually probably end up being into next year based on the timing, but we may try to tackle some of the smaller projects such as on-course restrooms or some of the upgrades at the clubhouse, which might be able to start not long after we award the design build contract. And we will definitely provide updates to you throughout that process. And once we get these Indigo with our project management contract, as well as the design build firm, we should be able to rock and roll and have a good project and have these renovations done.
So I
So
could add a point to that, Andy, if I may. When you're dealing with golf courses, it's not like building fire station or building a lift station. There is a specific season that you want to be mindful of when you are earning your peak revenues, when your demand for play is at its greatest. And so you're always mindful of when that falls. And then on top of that, we have to be mindful of what grow-in times come into play, particularly when you're dealing with grass on greens. You may be able to finish the project at a certain point, but if the grass hasn't grown in and isn't stable to support it, then you can't use it. So the timing of grass renovations typically is something you want to be able to launch about a month from now. They're close to it. So you're growing in during your summer months when your play is at its least, your rainfall is plentiful, your sunshine is plentiful, you're not impacted by cold and dormant weather. So that's what Andy's speaking of. There are certain things that we can get done right off the bat that aren't tied back to the agronomic aspects of the course, and some of the stuff that we're going to have to time out so that it's done accordingly. And you're not backing over work that you've just improved and destroying it in the process. So these are easy pieces to do, but it's a delicate dance and an orchestrated, maneuver that has to happen in there. And so that's why having Indigo on as a project management component within it is especially important for us, because not only do they understand how to maintain it once it's done, but really the impacts of the construction while it's going on.
Questions, commissioners, for Andy? Andy, the bathrooms, are they gonna have drinking fountains? We can drink water, fresh water, or? will be-
Yes, I believe we would put, that would be easy enough that we could put a water fountain and a bottle filler on that.
And when you, this might be more of a question for the guys behind you, but when you redo greens, I know you take up the sod and the soil and you, because the soil gets bad and then you put new soil down, but do they reconfigure the green to make it more challenging? You put more undulation potentially, or you redo them at the same time?
I'm going to defer that to Dan and Joe, and if it's okay with you, I think that might be a good segue into
Okay.
their portion, unless you guys have any more questions for Julie or myself.
Mayor, are you asking to make them more challenging or
No,
less
bigger.
challenging?
It's bigger. And I like little funnels that I can use that only the mayor knows about.
I'll reintroduce. So I'm Dan Zimmer, so VP of Operations for Indigo. Joe Coley, our general manager out at the golf course. Really excited to be here. It's hard to believe that it's been 10 years almost that we've been involved, and both Joe and I were part of it since the beginning. So we've been through the good and sometimes not so good. So happy to be here to be talking about this exciting project, as well as the performance of the golf course, which is good news to share. The question regarding the greens and the renovation, that's part of what we'll have to determine through the design process, because there's different scopes that you can do. Part of that is based off of soil testing and how much you would need to strip down, and then what type of material that you need to bring in. There's different types of greens mix, what drainage would be necessary. So that's what would be determined in the design process. But one of the big things is definitely enlarging the greens. That happens regularly at golf courses over a period of time. Greens just kind of naturally shrink in from mowing and just over the course of time. So the greens now are probably 70% of the size they were 25 years ago. And that's normal for golf courses. So we'll expand those back out to at least their original size or beyond is what the thought would be.
Do you have the wherewithal within your firm to come up with maybe something that's kind of not cute, because I like cute golf courses, but something that's a little bit different than what we have out there now, that people can say, oh man, I remember this hole, I remember that, or is it going to be just exactly like it is now, just improved?
Well, I think those are certainly things that could be considered. And when you look at the list of items that are there are a lot of components. So it's going to come down to what is the best use of the funds in order to have the best golf course that can be maintained consistently, as well as a good experience for the residents of Winter Haven.
Certainly won't install any windmills or clown's mouths or anything like that. But
My point is, when you're saying, oh, if we could have just taken this corner
Right.
out of that, now's the time to do that, when we're going to have everything kind of stripped down,
Yeah.
just tweak it a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
But I think to the mayor's point, and I relate the course back to the 90s, and I feel like that's probably, the peak of where the course was. Not that it's not great now, but on hole 17, that used to be that water connected from the pond to the water behind 10 green.
Yeah.
So you didn't have the ability to really run it up there, and you got saved if you
Yep.
didn't make the green. So if that water was connecting there, where it was, it was filled in, I mean, that's a memorable hole, because you're either going to go for it and make it, or you're going to go for it and be in the water.
And that, Brian, that's Commissioner Yates, sorry, that's one of those was done because we had a retaining wall that was failing there right on the front edge of that green. And if we're dealing with greens renovations on that particular hole, that may be an ideal time to try and
Yeah.
reinstitute something like that, because you're already into it. I think that's exactly what the mayor's saying is,
Sure.
if we're tearing up that area, how much more effort is it to put something
Right.
like that back into play?
Just a couple of memorable things,
Yeah.
not expensive, but just something like what you talk about, something different.
Sure.
I would also say that you had asked the question of Andy about that restroom, and I think that one of the plans or one of the thoughts is We have a restroom design today. It's just a matter of building it on the course. They just completed a restroom structure at Rotary Park, a new outdoor restroom. So we never have to, tie the building up with exterior uses. And I think that it's just a matter of being able to plop those kind of things in. So those are things that happen pretty quick or could.
All right, and so we'll jump into our course updates.
Advancing, if not, I can give you a mouse.
Of this side, yeah. She gave me instructions and I didn't listen very well, so. I'm gonna turn it over to Joe, so he's gonna run through some of the rounds and performance trends.
So if you look, last year fiscal year, we did over 35,000 rounds. The first time we've done over 35,000 rounds since 16-17. And we went over $1 million in revenue the first time since we've been there. And it was our least subsidized year at the golf course. So definitely heading in the right direction as far as financial performance.
Where are you seeing I'm looking at the chart.
The EBITDA
Oh.
is the.
That's the subsidy.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question while we got the numbers on there? So do you think that the improvements to the course, obviously that it makes it potentially more attractive to have more rounds, but will the improvements to the course lower the overall day-to-day expenses of the course that you're seeing now? So that helps depreciate the amount that needs to be subsidized.
So I don't think it would decrease the overall expenses for the course. It would shift where those dollars are spent. So for example, one of the items that is on the project list would be an irrigation system. Right now we spend a lot of labor, time and operating expenses to repair the existing system. So with the new system, then you're going to be shifting those labor hours to more detail work around the golf course to maintain the mowing and the detail work around the edges and the tees. Right now we've got 4 employees in the studio. So our maintenance crew is 5 employees, which includes the superintendent. So really, I think we're going to we would take that labor and shift it into other areas that would help, maintain the golf course, the new renovations that were completed. And one thing to add to that, so Joe, last year with our revenue, and we did have about a $60,000 subsidy. One thing to note is we had a one-time expense on the golf carts for new batteries. One of the things with COVID was the production and procurement of golf carts. Like a lot of things, they were delayed. So what we did was put new batteries in our old carts while we went through the process of acquiring new carts. So that was a significant expense of just under $50,000. So that was a one-time expense. So had that not been part of that, we would have been relatively close to break even. This is just the graph that's up now, shows our year-over-year trends. The one on the upper left is by year going back to 2014, and the different color lines are the different markets. So the blue line is Willowbrook, and then the orange line is what the rounds year-over-year change was for the entire US. And then the gray is the state of Florida, and then the yellow line is Orlando. You'll see a couple year gap in the yellow line, and that's because during COVID, they did not collect data for specific markets just because the data was very skewed because some courses were closed, some were open. So they didn't provide that data. But you can see in general, there's some years where it spiked. But overall, Willowbrook has performed better than Florida and the Orlando market. And especially when you look at the bottom right, the year-over-year rounds for 2022-23, consistently we have performed well, which is driven by course conditions being consistent and overall positioned well in the market.
point out on that, if I could, if you could pull that just back up. See where we did drop down, commissioners, in September 22. Keep in mind that we were underwater in September 22 following Hurricane Ian, so that would be expected. That's the anomaly within that.
Correct.
Just an overview of what's going on so far this fiscal year. We got off to a slow start in October, November, but we picked up in January and February. Through February, we were $60,000 better than budget. January, just 1 month alone, we exceeded budget by 37,000. We beat budget as far as revenues goes in March by over 30,000, so 2 months in a row. The great course conditions plus the pricing strategy that we've used have made it one of the best values in the area. Some of the competition has closed, like Oakwood and Greenleaf, which is, we've pulled some play from there. Our membership did grow because the Greenleaf closing. We did grow our membership by about a dozen members. And this was the first year that the course was in good enough shape that we didn't have to overseed the fairways, which due to the pandemic and other factors, seed prices have gone through the roof. So it was a great way for us to not have to spend all that money, but the course conditions were never fell back. Something that's not on here, but I'll add right now through March with our financial performance this year, we are trending to turn profit. So we will not be subsidized. Hopefully if everything stays on.
There's the sun, see the day.
I've been here 22 years. It's never happened.
I can remember what 10 years ago, we were having that argument. We were like, if you just give us some time, and we're like, I believed you. So
A large part of that is due to our loyalty program that we've built. We sell a discount card. Currently, it's $80. In the summer, it'll go down to 40 or 45. We had some issues with the printer this year. Usually we start selling them in November, but we couldn't get them in until January. So in just January, February, and March, we sold over 650 cards. Last year, we did 55,000 in card sales. And having that card in your wallet makes you more prone to go play Willowbrook. And it's a good savings right now. Like the current price is $49 if you're public. If you have that card, it's $40 and that includes lunch. So you get the discount and the value.
Can I ask a question on that card?
Yeah.
So a lot of the loyalty programs that are similar to this card that I pretty much have them all, but a lot of them have again association with the card. So you can track your handicap, you can call Willowbrook your home course, but this card doesn't have that. Is that something that we can look at potentially adding, or your thoughts?
So with our full membership, we do include the gin handicap. If I were to include it with the card price would have to go up because there's a fee associated with every golfer in your system that you have to pay annually. So it would be managing how many people take advantage of it versus how many people, because we do offer, you can carry your handicap at the golf course for $39 for the year. So it's not an extreme expense, but you can carry your handicap with us.
Yeah, it seems like the other cards that are out there are in that $90 to $100 range, and maybe that's the difference. But if they're all selling those cards and yielding that price, maybe that added benefit would help.
It's definitely something we can think of. Truthfully, I've never really thought about it because most of our golfers aren't good enough to keep a handicap. So we don't run into that problem too often. And they don't play by the rules, so they wouldn't know how to post their scores, but it's something I can look into for sure. As far as course conditions go, right now, all 19 greens, so all 18 and then the practice green have full coverage. They look a little slow, but they're actually rolling pretty quick for right now. We have worked to enlarge them over the last few years, taking them out a mower at a time. They're not near as big as we'd like to get them, but they are larger than when I got there. All the tee boxes have healthy turf. We only overseeded par 3 tee boxes this year. You overseed the par 3s because they take more beating. They're smaller tee boxes. So, but everything else was just pigmented. All the fairways were pigmented. We didn't throw any seed into any of the fairways this winter, and the turf is very healthy. So this time of year where that seed would be fighting the Bermuda to stay alive and come back, then we don't have to worry about it. So it's just the Bermuda is just taking in all the nutrients. And with that, you also have higher fertilization through the winter to keep it nice and lush. And we leave it a little bit higher cut. Our older clientele likes to be able to fluff the ball up a little bit. We did get a skid steer with the brush hog attachment. So we have started to take back some of the areas. So if you look at the bigger picture in the back, that is the back tee box on number 17. So we've started to clear out some of that brush, and we started to clear out some of the brush down that waterway. So you can actually see the water now, and it's a brush hog, so it has its limitations, but we've tried to clear out as much as we can. Some of the larger vegetation we can't take out with that piece of equipment. We have to chainsaws and more heavy duty equipment. And we did get a new cart fleet 2 weeks ago, which was a godsend. So makes everybody happy, makes us capable to fill the tee sheet, because during the winter we had to have blocks because we wouldn't have enough carts. So now, unfortunately, timing, we're slowing down now, but we'll be able to keep a full tee sheet for the next winter. Yeah, let Dan take this.
One thing that we try to focus on is acing the guest experience. So that's part of our that's our service training program. So every employee that works at the facility goes through our ACE training. That's one of our requirements. And so 100% of the staff is ACE trained. I won't read it, but that's our team member pledge that everybody that works there needs to recite as part of the ACE training. So that just kind of outlines the expectation of the service experience that we want to deliver. And this just shows, so Golf Advisor, which I think recently actually changed their name. It's through golf.com and through Golf Now. And this is one of the main sources where people would go to get information and reviews on the golf course. And then they also have a recommendation rating. So right now we're at 90.3% of guests recommend the course. To put that in perspective, when we started looking at this 10 years ago, the recommended percentage was in the low 60s. So we worked really hard to improve the experience, both through golf course conditions and service, to elevate that. And you can see how that compares to the rest of our direct competition.
And the majority of these listed on here are double what it costs to play at Willowbrook right now.
Correct. Well, I'll let Joe speak to that a little bit more on kind of where we sit pricing relative to the.
Price wise, yeah, if you look at White Heron and Highlands Reserves, those are a lot more expensive than we are. We fall in line with Cypress Wood, and Lake Wales is a little bit more expensive than we are. Cleveland Heights is about level where we are for the municipal golf course. Now, if you get into your Southern Dunes and those are going to be the double, the triple what we charge. But yeah, that's why I say we have the best value in the area for sure. Just some reviews that have been, I literally went and grabbed the first 3 that were on the page, and so I wasn't cherry picking. They're all 4 stars, all recommend the golf course, different comments, whether it be restaurant. One of them says the greens could be bigger. So, you know, everything about course conditions has been positive though.
With the online reviews, that's something that we watch closely, because in today's environment, people are making buying decisions on what they're going to do based off of reviews. So the way that we have it set up is that every morning, both Joe and I get an automated email with any reviews that have been posted to any of the sites, whether or not it's Google or Yelp or Yahoo or Golf Advisor. So those come in, and then if there's any that need to be addressed, then we'll either respond to them online or reach out to those individuals directly. So that's something that we do watch very closely. Data analysis is also something that we monitor closely. So we constantly are looking at trends on a daily basis on where our rounds are tracking, what our average rate is relative to what we had budgeted to be, where it was the prior year. how we're positioned in the market. These are just an example of some of the reports that we pull. The bottom one, which is hard to see, that's a comp assessment report. So that's something that's pulled twice a week and emailed to both Joe and I, and that those lines represent our direct competition, and each dot represents an available tea time that they have online and what the rate by time of day and what the rate is. So we're constantly monitoring to make sure that competition isn't making any adjustments in rates and that we're positioned where we think we should be. And then this is also part of our annual budget process where we're looking at the different data metrics and how to budget going forward. And I'm going to let Joe talk a little bit about the marketing.
So we have some software called Design on Demand where I can go in and make flyers, make email templates, make all kinds of different table tents for specific events. Like we made the renovations board, and when you walk in the front door, you see the renovations board. Or if we're running a special, it's nice because you can go in there and it's got a professional look to it. It's not a Word document with clip art. It actually looks nice and is attractive and can catch the eye. So everything in the clubhouse for the most part is done through Design on Demand, or I put in, if it's something they don't have that I need, like say my card program, I can put in a request with all the specifications of the program and they'll make me a custom design piece with all what I need, whether it be posters, cart signs, any type of marketing collateral. And then also they can add it to the website and all that jazz. And our Facebook has grown quite a bit. We're over 900 people over 9 years. It's cheap advertising. It's really comes down to a couple dollars here and there, but it does get a lot of our events and stuff that we run out to the public. So it's a tool that we have definitely taken advantage of over the last 9 to 10 years.
And then wanted to just provide some pictures. These are behind the scenes, most of which you will not meet or see. But we've got Matt Hurley, who is our Executive Vice President of Operations, and he's based down in South Florida. Tessa Brooks, who's our HR generalist. So if Joe has any issues on the HR side, she's the direct contact that he reaches out to. Nicholas Kress is our accountant. So he handles the financial statements and the accounting, and he's got a direct line to the finance team. Victor Sensky does our AP. So we send in all of our AP to our corporate office, and Victor's the one that handles that and gets everything paid. David Evangelista is our regional director of sales and marketing. He's based in the Orlando market. So he comes out a couple times a year and has regular conversations with Joe about where our pricing is at, what is our marketing plan, and do we need to, are there other things that we can do? Dan Evers is our regional director of agronomy. So he's been highly involved here over the last couple of months as we've looked at the Duke project and trying to define scopes and pricing. And then Chad Quinn's our marketing associate. So as Joe talked about on the flyers and information and stuff that we put together, when all of that goes in, it gets handled by Chad. And then Tom Badwart's our director of food and beverage. So he provides support to the restaurant. And these are the ones that are just directly involved. And then we've got a team on the risk side, insurance side, and benefits side that are also there to provide support. And that was everything we had. Happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Commissioners, any questions? Brian?
Just a couple of questions. The fountains in the lakes, are we working on those I think even on the scorecard, I think still shows a fountain in a lake, but which it used to be.
Those have not been in operation since before we took over, and I'm not sure there was a plan. We started to spray the lakes for vegetation management, but there hasn't been talk of any type of repairing the fountains.
Okay. One thing that I constantly hear from everyone when I'm out there or around is a beverage cart. And the amount of volume and the play that we're seeing, certainly on the weekends, are we not at that point yet to put a beverage cart out there, at least on a Saturday when the tee sheet's full? Or
It's something we've done in the past where we've tried and was not very successful. Our clientele has started to change a little bit to where we could start to think about it. We don't have a physical cart on property, a beverage cart. We'd have to look into spending that capital to get a what they call the beverage. But it's something we can definitely consider, maybe put into some capital planning in the future.
Yeah, just, I mean, that's a constant that I hear, because I mean, you go out there and the T sheet's full and everybody's out there and there's, seems like it's a missed opportunity for some additional revenue.
The new fleet of carts does have a cooler on the side,
Mhm.
so that will help. So before they're on the round.
And is 5 employees the right number for staff? Is that for an 18-hole golf course of our caliber, is that the right number?
If you ask my superintendent, we'd always love to have more. I mean, we get by pretty well with what we do have, but we've talked about adding more outside employees. It's just a matter of making it work within the budget.
If there's major projects that have to happen on the course, do we have the opportunity to borrow from other mowing departments or?
Well, I'll let Joe answer that as far as where they can pull from within their own operations, if at all. But I can tell you that like during hurricanes and stuff like that, and you're dealing with trees that are down. That's kind of an all hands on deck, and you're getting assistance from Parks and Rec and from Public Works, getting equipment in there to haul stuff out. So I will say, you know, over the years also when we had, someday hopefully we'll get these back, is the PCI, the prison crews, and you have a major clearing that you need to do along a lake shore or a wooded area, we can deploy that. But you know, that's just been a little bit more limited industry wide across this state right now of having the manpower to do it. So we try and pull where we can, but yes, sir.
The last thing I'll say is I don't think you mentioned anything about the app. And the app is phenomenal. The only thing I wish it had would be if you're a card member or a member out there, a way to check that box so that you
So
can move forward with
be
making
able
the fee without calling in.
So book with and getting the discounted rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, that is a solution that we're looking at, not just at Willowbrook, but in general to make the apps more connected to the rest of our systems. So it's a more seamless experience to book a tee time. You can do, like you said, on differentiating between a card holder or a public player, ordering online for the restaurant, paying online, those types of things are things, the technology that we're working on, and it's more about how to get that to integrate with all of our systems and the back end side of it. So that's something that we do continue to work on.
Especially if I'm a public player going on there, I click on book the tee time, go to pay for it. Be nice to have the upgrade option. Do you want to go ahead and upgrade to our card?
Yeah.
Boom, click it and you're done. And that might help increase those sales.
Agreed. And it's a technology side of things right now that we're working on to get all of that to flow appropriately to be able to do things like that.
I got 2 points. Again, congrats. I was there 10 years ago when we had this big argument where best thing we did was hire you guys. So thank you for all your hard work. I know you've, it's been a labor of love. So we see it bearing fruit now. So the 2 things I hear about most is the beverage cart. And I was thinking maybe you could do a poll as people are paying. Hey guys, if we had a cart, would you guys buy Coke from them or a beer or whatever? And just quiz the people and see, because may not be, like you said, your clientele may not want them, but it may just be worth asking. And the other one is the how wet things are, but I know that's taken care of with we're going to take care of that a lot with this money. So my last question, do we still use gray water out there? Is that still, or is that pretty much all the irrigation out there?
Pretty much all your irrigation.
Yeah, 100% of it's through the gray.
And how many courses do you guys take care of now? What's your number?
We're part of Troon. So overall, it's about 700 golf courses worldwide.
In Florida?
In Florida, It's over 50 courses now.
Okay.
So I don't know the exact numbers, but we definitely have a strong presence in Florida, and several of those are municipalities as well. So we do work with several municipalities throughout the state.
So when you're buying fertilizer, you're buying it by the truckload, not by the bag.
Yeah, we have our national partners with, our primary national partners that we definitely get best in industry pricing through those partnerships. And Joe brought up seed as an example. Sometimes it's a matter of getting access to it and being able to reserve that as much as it is about price. Same thing on the equipment side, with the procurement challenges over the last several years, being able to get maintenance equipment or golf carts or beverage carts or utility vehicles, those types of things. Through our national partnerships, we've been able to leverage that and get things quicker than a standalone golf course would likely be able to.
Perfect. Well, I'm satisfied. Anybody else?
I just want to say that I've been here the whole 10 years and before, when we were actually having a discussion about developing a baseball field and everything out there for the Cleveland Indians. So that goes a long way back. But I never really, we talked about it, but we just figured it would be possibly 25 years or longer before we would ever come close to break it even. And here we are. So you all have done an outstanding job over the years. And I just want to say that I want you all to know that we really do appreciate it. Great job.
Thanks.
City manager wants to weigh in here.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Again, these gentlemen are an absolute pleasure to work with. When it comes to data and metrics analysis, I've never met a group that does quite the job that they do on measuring everything from rounds to revenue to heat maps of where people are coming into play from. They're tracking you more than MJ is through his streetlight data, I'm thinking. The fact that we last year were at a $60,000 subsidy, that's for a 120-acre park. $60,000 subsidy. There's no park system within our operation, no department within our operation where we can say we have that type of subsidy other than the proprietary accounts, which the golf course is intended to operate as. But given the sheer nature and history of it, that's really, really impressive. The final point, just you heard Commissioner Yates offer a fair number of questions, is the golfer of the dais here. I just want to be clear that when Joe said most of our golfers at the golf course are not good enough really to maintain a handicap, he wasn't speaking of Commissioner Yates. So I just want to thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
We'll see you next year. Okay. Minutes. PTK consent agenda. There's only 4 things on the consent agenda. 10A, Commissioners, any questions on this Chastain Skillman Wetlands project out of Bradco Farms?
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, you had offered a question to me earlier today, and this is really about doing some preliminary due diligence on that site. Gary Hester is here and can probably speak to this better than I can, but just going through the fact sheet, this is really about doing a land title certification, a survey, and then also a wetland delineation and environmental technical memorandum. So we know more about what's involved with this property and what its capacities are. Gary, can you confirm for me a phase 1 environmental is not necessarily part of this? Am I correct in that?
You are correct. Yes, it
So-
is not part of this evaluation.
So I think before we even get into the phase 1 aspects of it, it's really, okay, what is the viability of this area for what we're looking to do and what are the wetlands? So when we negotiate pricing, we have that in our pocket.
Exactly, and we'll also have a better understanding of what areas are potentially right for the actual wetland restoration project. So that's really the focus of this effort. Now, the phase 1, we will do that also.
Okay, Tracy.
How many acres is this?
So the entire property is roughly 570 acres. We've estimated the wetland restoration area at about 360 acres.
How big is Circle B? Anybody know?
No, I don't know. what that-
Significantly larger than that.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
This is about half as big as Circle B, you'd say?
maybe a third.
yeah, there are other properties to the northeast and to the west, southwest that could make for even a larger project. But we wanted to start with the largest property owner.
It's about a quarter the size of Circle B. Circle B is shown as about 1,200 acres.
Well, this is 570.
But the wetland area that specifically that we're targeting initial.
Right.
Oh, so you're saying Circle B is all wetlands?
No, sir, no, but the land that we're looking to acquire within, I mean, if we can get
Oh, I
on
see.
570,
I got
that'd be great, but really the 360 is the primary function. we're looking at.
That's correct. We are looking for a little bit of high ground for a utility complex that would be located on Buckeye Loop Road.
Gotcha.
Where are we at with acquiring it? I mean,
We're in discussions weekly with the property owners. I visited them while I was at a conference in Atlanta early in March. So we're having discussions with them all the time. I anticipate a property sale agreement here any day now that they're preparing for us. And so once we get that, we'll be going through it with city management and the commission to determine the next steps forward.
Gary, have you spent a lot of time on this property? Have you toured it all, or have you just kind of driven by it, or what?
So we've had quite a few staff. We asked permission to get on the property. We've had staff walk the property. We have drone footage of this property and adjoining parcels also. We spent a great deal of time of looking at this property, and the property owners have provided us a fair amount of information also that they have gathered over time so that we have a good understanding of what we're trying to purchase.
Only reason I mention it is because I can remember my dad talking back in the 70s that there was somewhere off of used to be Inspection Station Road. Now it's called
Buckeye Loop.
Buckeye Loop Road. There was some sort of a winding trail that went back and went to a kind of a garage sort of thing where they worked on tractors and trailers and things for citrus. And I don't even know if that's true or not. I could be totally mistaken, but I'm just concerned that there might be some dumpage or a buried tank or something back in there.
There are some structures out there that look pretty rough in shape. You know, the roofing is missing on them, and we'll evaluate the site and make sure that we're not getting into something that will create us an issue in the future.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Mr.
I'm
Mayor, if
excited
you'd
about
like, I
this.
can touch on these other three that are within the consent.
Yeah,
10B is just standard slip lining of some sanitary sewer lines. This was a bid project. It's a company that we've worked with a number of years, have been very pleased with. 10C, the 5 million gallon groundwater storage tank that you see out, or ground storage tank you see out of Plant 3. That's that giant tank that's out there. So this is the just some routine maintenance work that will be done on that through CROM. And then 10D, we are doing some of our federal advocacy efforts in May, and Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong, Commissioner Yates, myself, and Public Affairs and Communications Director Katrina Hill will be traveling to DC to meet with Congressman Franklin. And we are also coordinating a meeting with EPA for some of our utility asset improvement needs that we have. So that's just the authorization of travel on that.
any chance you guys can go by DOT and get a little 544 money from Pete? Go by there like we did
If we can
before.
go by and see Uncle Pete, we'll see.
See
if we
if we can get a little bit of, get back on that radar screen.
That was, I think, the nicest building that we went into while we were there, so I'd be
Yeah.
happy to go back and visit.
We had such a good meeting with the staff. I just want to keep stoking that flame. But Tracy, you got something?
Yeah, the 5 gallon or 5 million gallon ground storage tank, is that the reclaimed water tank or is that, okay?
Yes. Okay, ordinance first reading, voluntary annexation of 3070 Wesley Cameron Drive.
I just say that this is a small annexation and it doesn't address an enclave. This is a commercial property that's out there on 540. It's a little odd. I'm not real sure how it didn't come into the city previously, but it's cleaning up an enclave at the request of the owner to put all their properties together.
02319 is an ordinance amending ordinance 02267.
So this is the most important one for me on the agenda, because this deals with, and I've spoken with commissioners about in briefings. This is the budget amendment to allocate the surplus from the fiscal year 22 general fund of $5.1 million into our construction fund so that we can get underway on our Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center improvement project. Just as a note, your fund, your general fund operated with this surplus last year, which increased the available fund balance to about $22.6 million. That equates to about 38% of what would be required for the general fund budgeted expenditures. Our policy calls for 17%. So at 22.58 million, that exceeds the policy of 17% by over about 12.5 million. So even once this transfer is made, you'll still have right about 30% fund balance in the general fund. So sitting in a very good position. This is from some efficiencies that we eked out in fiscal year 22, stemming from, where staff positions will be filled with projects we're able to get done in different forms and ways. So we're recommending authorization to make this budget amendment.
I give full credit to our new finance director.
I
CJ gets all that credit.
couldn't agree with you more, sir.
Okay. Just give credit where credit's due. Okay, new business, Dewdney Plaza Developers Agreement and Developers Agreement with 610.
I'm gonna ask Eric, because we're gonna give him full credit for these as well. Let him present those two for you briefly.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Terry Dudney is registered agent for Dudney Plaza LLC. He's wanting to do a redevelopment project in Florence Villa. You can see the location here on your screens. He recently purchased the parcel 00020, which is immediately to the east of the city-owned parcel. So then immediately adjacent to that parcel, outlined on your location map, is a very small city-owned parcel, kind of a remnant. It's 0.08 acres along First Street. Given its size and location, it's currently undevelopable. Couldn't meet any kind of required setbacks or anything in the district. Mr. Dudney approached us with his redevelopment opportunity on that parcel. He would like to redevelop that existing building and add about 300 square feet of additional retail space. The addition of the city-owned parcel to this project would allow him to accommodate for additional parking, stormwater retention, and landscaping along the front of the property. So what you have before you will be before you on Monday night is a proposed developers agreement with Mr. Dudney that would authorize the city manager to execute all documents necessary to facilitate a donation of the city-owned parcel to Mr. Dudney with appropriate reverter clauses if the project does not move forward. It provides Mr. Dudney 1 year from the approval of the developers agreement to secure site plan approval with the city, and provides him 1 year from site plan approval to commence construction on the project. It's my understanding that he intends to move forward with this project immediately.
Eric, are you telling me that purple area is 0.08 acre? Or am I missing something?
The outlined orange
Yeah.
area there, yes, 0.08 acres.
Less than 1/10.
I zoomed in very far on the aerial so you can see it. It is a very small parcel.
Building though, my goodness. That's not very big, but looks big on the map here. but good. I hope he does breaks ground soon. So that's awesome.
And then Eric, if you would speak to the one with 610 as well, sir.
Yes, sir. Pages here real quick. The next item is a developer's agreement with 610 LLC. They've recently received site plan approval for the redevelopment of the parcel you see located there on your screen. This is adjacent to the FDOT pond just south of Avenue C. They propose to redevelop this site into restaurant, office, and retail space. Really kind of a neat site plan, has a, outdoor courtyard type feel to it. It is zoned C1, downtown zoning, and so it does not require any kind of off-street public parking with this project. But in an effort to facilitate some more public parking and consistent with recommendations that were in the Walker parking study analysis, what you have before you on Monday night is a developer's agreement that outlines their donation of some property from this parcel and the construction of 24 on-street parking spaces that will be located along 4th Street Southwest and Avenue D Southwest, by which the city would reimburse them construction costs for the construction of that public parking not to exceed $180,000. And they would provide, pursuant to the agreement, they would provide all construction documents, paid invoices. They would survey and have as-built submitted as part of the project, and then deliver to us, clear title for that land. And it would be public parking, not restricted in any way.
Just for a little further clarification on it, that this area immediately to the east of it where you see 001110, that's Egg Haven. So that if you're not familiar with the area that we're talking about here, it is that large DOT fund that we hope to ultimately be able to do some improvements on that as well, that I know MJ and Gary and some of our other team are working on at the same time.
I was just getting ready to ask you, because next time you guys do these, if you could put this map up that has like the name of places where we know exactly where it is. Like I know where Soci Market is and Destroyer Meter, that works better than having those numbers. Just saying.
We like to have both, so we
Okay.
can do both.
Yeah, this is good though. Thank you.
Yes,
Questions,
sir.
commissioners?
I have a question.
Okay.
For those funds, would that potentially be coming from the sale of the parking lot to the hotel? Potential hotel, I mean, could we basically just do a swap basically with those funds and utilize that?
So we identified in the fact sheet in consultation with the city attorney and bond counsel that the bond revenue that was issued could be used for the construction of public parking in this manner. And that's what we've identified in the fact sheet as the source of those funds. If some other revenue source were to come.
I will say that we've not closed on that parking lot sale.
Right.
So we did a bond issuance in 2021 that included improvements to downtown parking, and this is certainly in step with that. So that would be our recommendation at this time, to stay on the up and up with that.
If that sale does take place, would that?
If that's,
be
I
the
would
right
put
way
that
to-
to the construction fund for the additional parking improvements downtown. I think long-term, our parking expenditures, the cost to improve parking downtown is going to far exceed what we have in that construction fund that's dedicated for parking now. So any revenue that comes in that is tied back or could somehow be affiliated with parking and transportation downtown be earmarked for that construction fund.
I think there's definitely going to have to be some sort of partnership
Right.
with downtown businesses or downtown corporations in conjunction with our contributions.
I concur.
Is there any more movement on
On the Taylor, not that I've heard, the last that Mr. Labby and I were informed was that we would be hearing back from that development team at some point. I would have thought by now, but we're still available to engage with them.
All righty then. Questions, concerns? Commissioners? All right, staff, you guys got anything else? T or Seth, you got anything or?
I would just offer one thing, want to, for today specifically, just want to say congratulations to AJ Nicholson. Today marks her 2-year anniversary and she helps manage so much for you guys. So just want to offer my congrats to her for the great work she's doing and keeping everyone in check.
Good. Thank you, AJ. Been a welcome addition. All right. Hon, you got anything? Oh, congratulations for all you're doing. We know how hard you're working. We just want to publicly acknowledge, thank you for all you're doing and we know it's you know, a lot of work and thank you for all you're doing for us. We know you're holding down the fort, so thank you for that. So, all right, we're adjourned.